ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯ ಕಾಲೇಜು ಇತಿಹಾಸ ಮತ್ತು ಪ್ರಾಕ್ತನಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ವಿಭಾಗದ ವತಿಯಿಂದ ಕಳೆದ 3 ತಿಂಗಳಿಂದ ನಡೆದುಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಈ ಒಂದು ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಲಿಕೆಯ 17ನೇ ಸಂಚಿಕೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಆಗಮಿಸಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮವರೇ ಆದಂತಹ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಡೆನಿಸ್ ಫರ್ನಾಂಡಿಸ್ ಅವರು ತುಳುನಾಡಿನ ಕ್ರೈಸ್ತ ಧರ್ಮ ಮತ್ತು ಅದರ ಮುಖಾಮುಖಿ ಬ್ಯಾಸಲ್ ಮಿಷನ್ ಒಂದು ಅನುಭವ ಇದರ ಕುರಿತು ತಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಬಂಧವನ್ನ ಮಂಡಿಸಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಗೂ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷತೆಯನ್ನ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯ ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ಪ್ರಾಂಶುಪಾಲರಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಅನಸೂಯ ಅವರು ವಹಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಗೂ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರನ್ನ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಭಾಗದ ಮುಖ್ಯಸ್ಥರಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಗಣಪತಿ ಗೌಡ ಅವರನ್ನ ನಾನು ಕೋರಿಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ.
ಸರ್ವರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಮಂಗಳೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯ ಕಾಲೇಜು ಇಲ್ಲಿನ ಸ್ನಾತಕೋತ್ತರ ಇತಿಹಾಸ ಮತ್ತು ಪುರಾತತ್ವ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ವಿಭಾಗ ನಡೆಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಈ ಒಂದು ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಸೀರೀಸಿನ 17ನೇ ಕಂತು. ಇವತ್ತು ನಾವು 200 ಗಣ್ಯ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರನ್ನ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ಪರಿಚಯಿಸುವಂತ ಕಾರ್ಯವನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈ 17 ಸೀರೀಸ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ವಿಭಿನ್ನವಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವಿಷಯವನ್ನ ಆಯ್ದುಕೊಂಡು ಆ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾಂಡಿತ್ಯವನ್ನು ಗಳಿಸಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರು ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ತಮಗೆ ಮಾಹಿತಿಯನ್ನ ನೀಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ನಾವು ನಿಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗೆ ಹಂಚಿಕೊಳ್ತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವಿಷಯ ಕ್ರಿಸ್ಟೆಂಡಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎನ್ಕೌಂಟರ್ಸ್ ಬಾಸಲ್ ಮಿಷನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ತುಳುನಾಡು. ತುಳುನಾಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರೈಸ್ತ ಧರ್ಮ ಮತ್ತು ಅದರ ಮುಖಾಮುಖಿ ಮತ್ತು ಬಾಸೆಲ್ ಮಿಸಲಿನ ಅನುಭವ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ವಿಚಾರವನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಡೆನಿಸ್ ಫರ್ನಾಂಡಿಸ್ ಅವರು ಮಾತನಾಡಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಗರದ ಸಂತ ಅಲೋಸಿಯಸ್ ಕಾಲೇಜಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿರಿಯ ಪ್ರಾಧ್ಯಾಪಕರಾಗಿ ಇತಿಹಾಸವನ್ನ ಕಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಸುಮಾರು 30 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಕಾಲ ತಮ್ಮ ಸೇವಾ ಅನುಭವವನ್ನ ಹೊಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಟ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಸ್ತುತವಾಗಿ ವೈಸ್ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಾಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಮತ್ತು ಇವರ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವಿಷಯ PhD ಥೀಸಿಸ್ ಥ್ರೂ ಅ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ಯುರೋಪಿಯನ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಹಾಗೂ ಇವರು ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಲೋಕಲ್ ಹಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಮತ್ತು ಯಾವುದು ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕ್ರಿಶ್ಚಿಯಾನಿಟಿ ಇನ್ ಕೋಸ್ಟಲ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಅಧ್ಯಯನಶೀಲರಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು ಮತ್ತು ಅಧ್ಯಯನವನ್ನ ಕೈಗೊಂಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು ಮತ್ತು PhD ಗೈಡ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು. ಇವರು ಕನ್ನಡ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯಕ್ಕೆ ಉಜಿರೆಯ ಹಮಾನ ಅಧ್ಯಯನ ಕೇಂದ್ರದ ಮೂಲಕವಾಗಿ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗೆ PhD ಮಾರ್ಗದರ್ಶನವನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇವರ ನೇತೃತ್ವದಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗಾಗಲೇ 3 PhDಗಳು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯಕ್ಕೆ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಲ್ಪಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು PhD ಅವಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಮತ್ತು 5 MP ಡಿಗ್ರಿಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಇವರು ತಮ್ಮ ಮಾರ್ಗದರ್ಶನದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅನೇಕ ಸೆಮಿನಾರ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಅಂತಾರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ಮಟ್ಟದಿಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯ ಮಟ್ಟದವರೆಗಿನ ಅನೇಕ ಸೆಮಿನಾರ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು, ಪೇಪರ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಮತ್ತು ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಕೆಲವು ಸೆಮಿನಾರ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷತೆಯನ್ನ ವಹಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ತಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಭುತ್ವವನ್ನ ಮತ್ತು ಅರ್ಥಾತ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತಮ್ಮ ವಿದ್ವತ್ತನ್ನ ಮಂಡಿಸಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಶ್ರೇಯಸ್ಸು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಡೆನಿಸ್ ಫರ್ನಾಂಡಿಸ್ ಅವರಿಗಿದೆ. ಅವರನ್ನ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಹಾರ್ದಿಕವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸ್ತಾ ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಅವರನ್ನ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಸರ್, ನಿಮಗೆ ಹಾರ್ದಿಕವಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ನಾವು 8 ತಿಂಗಳಿಂದ ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಇದು 9ನೇ ತಿಂಗಳು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಸೊ ಸತತವಾಗಿ ತಿಂಗಳಲ್ಲಿ 2 ದಿವಸವನ್ನ ಆಯ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು, ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಸ್ಯಾಟರ್ಡೆ ಮತ್ತು 4th ಸ್ಯಾಟರ್ಡೆ. ಬಹಳ ಅತ್ಯುತ್ತಮ ವಿದ್ವತ್ತನ್ನ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಪಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಅನೇಕ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರು ನಮಗೆ ಮಾಹಿತಿಯನ್ನು ನೀಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಾಂಶುಪಾಲರಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಅನಸೂಯ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅವರು ಪ್ರತಿ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಅವರು ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಹ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಈಗಾಗಲೇ. ಸರ್ ತಮಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಮೇಡಮ್ ತಮಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಹಾರ್ದಿಕವಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನ ಬಯಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಸೆಮಿನಾರ್ ನಾವು ಮಾನಸದ ಜತೆಗೂಡಿ ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಮಾನಸದ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷರಿಗೂ, ಪದಾಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳಿಗೂ, ಕಾರ್ಯದರ್ಶಿಗಳಿಗೂ ಮತ್ತು ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾನಸದ ಸದಸ್ಯರಿಗೂ ನಾನು ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನ ಬಯಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿರಿಯ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಶ್ಯಾಮ್ ಭಟ್ರವರು ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಅನೇಕ ಪ್ರಾಧ್ಯಾಪಕ ವರ್ಗದವರು ಮತ್ತು ಇತಿಹಾಸ ಆಸಕ್ತರು ಮತ್ತು ನಮಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಿಂದ ಸಹಕರಿಸಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅನೇಕ ಆತ್ಮೀಯ ಮಿತ್ರರು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳನ್ನೊಳಗೊಂಡಂತೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಭಾಗದ ಅನೇಕ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳನ್ನೊಳಗೊಂಡಂತೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾರ್ದಿಕವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಯಶಸ್ಸಿನ ಹಿಂದೆ ನಮಗೆ ದುಡಿತಾ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು ನಮ್ಮ ಜರ್ನಲಿಸಂ ವಿಭಾಗದ ಗುರುಪ್ರಸಾದ್ ಅವರು ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಹಂತದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳನ್ನ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಎಡಿಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮತ್ತು ಅದನ್ನ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಮೂಲಕ ಪ್ರಚಾರ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಕೆಲಸವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಅವರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಈಗಿನವರೆಗಿನ 16 ಸೆಮಿನಾರ್ಸ್ ಲೆಕ್ಚರ್ಗಳು ಕೂಡ ನಮಗೆ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಲಭ್ಯ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಮತ್ತು ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಇದನ್ನ ಲೈಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಹೆಮ್ಮೆಯ ವಿಷಯ ಅನ್ನುವಂತ ಮಾತನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಇನ್ನೋರ್ವ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತ ಸಿದ್ದರಾಜು ಸಸ್ಯಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ವಿಭಾಗದವರು, ಅವರು ನಮಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ಗಳು, ಸರ್ಟಿಫಿಕೇಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಅಂಶಗಳಿರ್ಬೋದು ಬೆಂಬಲವಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ನಮಗೆ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿಯುತವಾಗಿ ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸ್ತಾ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರನ್ನು ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸ್ತಾ ನಾನು ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಒಂದು ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರಾಗಿ ಆಗಮಿಸಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಡೆನಿಸ್ ಫರ್ನಾಂಡಿಸ್ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿನಂತಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ತಾವು ತಮ್ಮ ವಿಷಯವನ್ನ ಮಂಡಿಸಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಆಶಯದೊಂದಿಗೆ ನಾನು ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಸರ್.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಗಣಪತಿ ಗೌಡ್ರಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ಈ ಗುಂಪಿಗೆ ಗುಂಪಿನಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸದಸ್ಯರಿಗೂ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಗಣಪತಿ ಗೌಡ್ರಿಗೂ ಮತ್ತು ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ಪ್ರಾಂಶುಪಾಲರಾದಂತಹ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಅನಸೂಯ ರೈ ಅವರಿಗೂ ವಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ವಿಷಯವನ್ನು ಮಂಡಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ಗಣಪತಿ ಗೌಡ್ರೆ, ನಾನು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲ?
ಏನ್ ತೊಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ತೊಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲ?
ಮಾತಾಡೋದು.
ಓಕೆ. The topic which already has been informed to you that I'm going to speak on Christendom and its encounters, Basel mission experience in Tulunadu. Tulunadu has witnessed the Christian migration, or what we say that Christian wave, not exactly during the British period. Even before that, we could see that. When Portuguese landed here in this part, in Calicut, and afterwards we also find Portuguese presence in Mangalore. During that time, we could see, that along with the Portuguese, there were some priests who came here, and also we have reference that there were 3 churches were established during those periods in 1520s and all. There were 3 churches. That's what we hear from the records. That was established by the Portuguese. But we are not very sure about those churches, whether there were converts or whether there were people who were taken to Christianity from the locals and all. We are not very sure about it. Because why we are not very sure? Because we do not find the Christians here who are speaking either local language or any of Portuguese language before the advent of the Christians, or what we say, or can I say about Catholics from Goa. Goan migration took place in the 16th century. 16th, 17th century, we could see a good number of Catholics. What we see today is Konkani speaking Catholics. Their original home is Goa, and they migrated from Goa during 16th and 17th century. And therefore, the Catholics of this region in Tulunadu, they speak Konkani language because their homeland was Goa, and from there they came here. But then Tulu speaking Catholics or any other people like of that kind we do not hear about in this part. So what happened to the people, whether there were conversions of Catholics, people of this region, whether there were local Christians, we are not very sure about that, prior to the advent of the Catholics in the 16th century. Now, that was those Catholics who arrived here. They became part and part, of course, there were reasons why they might have migrated to Tulunadu. There are different reasons for that. Maybe one of the reasons was Inquisition, which was very much there. The Inquisition is a word which is, lot of things are there in Inquisition, which I cannot discuss here in length, but I'll tell you in brief. In Goa, especially the Jesuits in Goa started this Inquisition. This is a court which was established by the church, where you want to verify the people, those who are converted to Christianity, whether they are following the old practices or Hindu practices. In the missionary writing, we can say heathen. Heathen is a word that they were using it. So those practices which, even though you were converted to Christianity, you were practicing, your old, traditional things, which the Portuguese and the missionaries in Goa believed that it is heathen practice, it should be punished. The punishment was very severe, because if someone gives a complaint about a family stating that this particular person was practicing some of the old things of old religion, then he was brought to the ecclesiastical court, that is church court, and in the church court he was tried, and the case was automatically proved, because some of the small things were considered as, for example, when you have a new relation with a new family, for example, when you have a engagement ceremony, people used to exchange the betel leaves, and that was considered to be a old, came from the old tradition in the Goa, and it was not accepted by the Portuguese as well as by the missionaries. So it was considered as a heathen practice, and for that punishment was given. What was the punishment? Normally, punishment was your property was confiscated. Half of the property went to church, half of the property went to the person who gave the complaint. Like that, people lost their properties and people were punished. Other punishments were also there. Maybe that was one of the reasons which the people found it difficult. Of course, you have accepted Christianity, but then you are not allowed to practice some of the work, because once people who are converted, I don't think that you can give up everything of your past. To what extent you are brought to this new religion, these are the things, major issues, which I think is not a space here and no time also to discuss in this context. So that is why some people were irritated and maybe migrated in large number. There were also famine in Goa. They migrated, and when they came here in the 16th, 17th century, we see the Ikkeri rulers were ruling here, Kaladi rulers were ruling here. They accepted these Christians because Christians were good in agricultural activities. They were good agriculturists. Most of the Christians got the land from the Kaladi rulers, and they started cultivating here. So Christians, especially we must have seen in the rural areas, were occupying the land and cultivating the land. These are the things we see among the Christians in from northern part of coastal Karnataka, that is from Karwar, up to Kerala. We could see migration had taken place during this period. That is one set, and they came here, built their churches. The rulers themselves donated the land to build churches. For example, Milagres Church in Mangalore city itself, that land was donated by Rani Chennamma to build a church in that area. So that's how the rulers also supported, these people to have their churches, to have their religious practices. That's one story. These people continued to have their religion and continued in their day-to-day life and economic and spiritual life. All those things went hand in hand. Maybe there was a good relation between the locals, and even though these people were speaking Konkani language, had a good relation with their neighbors. That could be seen in many cases, because We know that sometimes there are stories of Tipu's occupation of Canara, and where there are stories related to Tipu, where Christians supporting the British, supporting in the sense they might have given food when Tipu blocked the food or blocked certain facilities to the British. These people might have given some food or vegetables, something of that kind, for that Christians were persecuted during Tipu's time. But some of the churches were protected by the Hindus during that time. Especially we have a strong reference from Kirem Church or Kinigodi Kirem Church, that area. The Bant community came forward and protected the church from the attacks from Tipu Sultan soldiers. That are the stories which we still have in the memories of the people here. So that's how there was a very harmonious, communally harmonious life. Very communal harmony could be seen among Catholics as well as the locals, Hindus and others in this part of the world. Then comes British rule in this area. The British started their rule in 1800, we know exactly 1799. And after that, we find advent of another sect of Christianity to this land, that is Basel missionaries. In 1834, we know that Basel mission arrived, and especially three missionaries came here and began their activities. One of the things which we could see that Basel missionaries were Lutherans, and the main purpose of theirs coming here is, we know that was to take, preach the New Testament to the people, and so that they could be taken to Christianity and a Christian congregation to be developed here. That was the major, work there. They thought that it is not that easy in this part. Early missionaries found it little bit difficult in this part because plenty of languages were here, but it's not a single language. There was Kannada, there was Konkani. Konkani was spoken by, GSPs and other Konkani groups. Also, then there was Tulu language. So it was not that easy to preach. Which language to be selected is very difficult, very pertinent question they had. And initially they thought, let's start all three missionaries started with 3 languages. They studied 3 languages and started, after learning the languages, we could see that they started writing or preaching in these languages. Of course, later on, they gave up Konkani and found that Konkani is not that much required. And Tulu and Kannada, these are the 2 languages they thought to be continued there. So we know that that is the work which they started. Tulu is the language where they wrote dictionaries in Tulu, grammar book in Tulu, which was much needed for them. If you look at those Tulu grammar and Tulu dictionary, they are not written in the Indian pattern, they are written in the European pattern. The structure of the dictionary, the structure of the grammar books, if you could see there, in the grammar book like, noun, pronoun, verb, all adjectives, these are the things which are found there. This is exactly the model the European languages are, European grammar is written. The same model is adopted. Even in the dictionary also, we find here it did not take place. Even before them, they even sometimes followed, Roman alphabetical structure in dictionaries. So that way we could see the way in which these dictionaries or grammar books, which were initially written, mostly to favor the Europeans who come here to preach their, Bible or to preach Christianity to the people, because they should understand the language better. They should understand, they should speak to people fluently. For that reason, these things were composed. Of course, it helped others also. And later on, we see that they also published other books not only these two other books, they started schools were started in different parts of this region. Especially when Basel missionaries came, the schools which were started by them were primary or elementary schools. Everywhere they started, and they brought the students from different parts. Sometimes before establishing mission station, they thought better to start a school in different areas, and people were attracted to these schools, students were attracted, and there they started preaching even in the school. They wrote the textbooks, printed the textbooks, and published them. Other than these, they also published tracts, small books, tracts which we call them, where they made comparison between Christianity and Hinduism, where they always claimed that Christianity is superior when compared to, because Christianity was equated to modernism or modernity, and that way, because they said that like the European, like the British, these European missionaries, especially the Basel missionaries, are German missionaries. Most of them, some of them were from Switzerland, and many of them were from Germany. And Germans had that feeling that they're superiors, or racially superior among all the Europeans, and that was the feeling also they were spreading here in this part. And even in their books also we could see such things. Some even whenever they were printing these things and distributing these books, we could see people also started reading. That also helped others get understanding of their own language, of their own religion, and also help to retrospect their religion. These are the things which happened during those times, which I am not going in detail. Certain things which I would like to see here. One of the things which came up during this period was what we call it printing technology. We also refer in this of this time as print capitalism. We call it. I am not going in detail about that, print capitalism, but printing technology, which became prevalent during this 19th century and also in the 20th century, that helped many to get access to the literature. And these are the missionaries who started printing the things. Also, some of the missionaries were also more interested in the language and culture of this time. Maybe botanical names, books on botany. Then they also found out some old text. They printed them here. Somewhere, became some missionaries even loved to study this ancient text and to produce them and to introduce them to the Western world. People like Kittel, Ferdinand Kittel, who brought the dictionary and brought almost all the words which were prevalent in Kannada during that time. Of course, Kittel, in the mission writings or in the missionary writings, in the home committee, Basel Mission Committee, he was not a good missionary. He had got a lot of, scoldings from the home committee itself, saying that we have sent you to mission work which you have not done. There were other missionaries also, but I am giving one example of Kittel. But one of the things which we could see here is because of this printing technology, one of the changes that had taken place was standardization of the language and script. Tulu, it was the language spoken by people, and missionaries started printing it. They started printing in one version of the Tulu, or one language, one version of the Tulu, in the sense Tulu had different versions. A Tulu of a Brahmins, especially we know the Brahmins of this region, Shivali Brahmins, their Tulu is one. Then you have others speaking Tulu here. Udupi Tulu you have Mangaluru Tulu, you have Puttur Tulu, you have Tulu of the locals. There are variants of Tulu. But the missionaries who got the training from some Brahmin, Brahmins here, Brahmin Pandits, they thought that that is the real Tulu and started, printing this. So what we see here, standardization of the language also led to the cornering of other versions of Tulu. That also could be seen in this part, because on this we have a greater study which has been made by Eaton. Standardized. Yeah, Eaton had done this. Ronald Eaton, I suppose, had done on Nagaland, where he saw that same type of things, where the missionaries went there, and there also different versions of Naga languages. One version was taken up by the missionaries and standardized it, where other versions slowly sidelined, and they slowly, extinguished. Here also we find one version of Tulu that was taken up by the mission. We come to know about that because when Manor wrote Pardonulu, for the first time he was exposed to a Tulu of Pardanas. And Manor was surprised to hear that Tulu in the Bhutakola, where he found out what type of Tulu it is. Because I have never heard of this kind of Tulu, where I am taught in it, where I was given instruction in different types of Tulu. So that was the expression Manor was showing when he heard the other versions of Tulu also. Okay. A good number of translations have been taken place during this period. That's what we see. But then, especially when it comes to Bible translation, there are some interesting things one can look into, because so biblical terms, they found it very difficult to translate here to the local culture or local languages. Especially the translation of the word Bible itself was a difficult thing for them to bring it to Kannada or into Tulu. They said what word to be given to Bible. Instead of in the local languages, people will not understand what is Bible. So they thought, so Vedas are considered to be the sacred text of the Hindus. Let's call Bible as Satya Veda. See, the term which they used here itself was, of that kind. That is not the only thing. You also come across a number of other terms which were used there. How to call God in local language? This was a question they had faced. Not only here, in almost all missionaries in South India, they were not able to get a exact word to translate into local language. So the word they coined was Sarvaishwara, Ishwara, Sarveshwara. Then the basically it had nothing to do with biblical term, but the local term that was used. For example, even certain words like Swarga, Naraka, these are the concepts of Hindu mythology or Hindu, theology. Those terms are as exactly borrowed from there and fixed here. Of course, you know that Swarga in Hinduism is Swarga of Hindus is different from Swarga of Christians. Naraka of Hindus is different from Naraka of Christians. These two concepts will not, tally there. No? In Konkani, you have a word for Naraka. It's called Yamakunda. Yamkon, they call it. Yamakunda. So Yama, the word even today it is used today. There in the liturgy, they use the word Yamkon or Yamakunda. Maybe the word has a different meaning there. Where Yamakunda is where Yama is there, but the same word is used. Therefore, you find different, series of. They were not happy with one translation. They brought another translation. So, series of repeated translations are brought about by these people, and that's what we could see. Even today, some people find saying that some of the words are not proper. So, this was a theological problem they were facing when they were translating this. Other thing which I have to speak about is among the local languages you have also making a choice. Now here in this part, the choice of the language between Tulu and Kannada, which language to be chosen? No, we know that they initially started with Tulu, and we thought that they have contributed a lot to Tulu. But when it comes to the final end, which language to be chosen here? Perhaps they chose to go to Kannada, because we find, because they found that Kannada is more cultivated language. Kannada is more cultivated language than Tulu. Therefore, in the long run, we could take up Kannada as the language. Tulu, we could, even in their schools, they found that Kannada cannot be taught initially. So therefore they thought first standard, second standard, let's teach them Tulu. Along with that, we start Kannada and finally end up with Kannada. So this is an area where that also is another thing which I'm just giving a gist of that. There are a lot of discussions on such issues where you are choosing a language. Language also, speaks about your social status, shifting the language from one to another, a social status, and those things are seen here by the missionaries. Other things of the missionaries, I'm not going in detail about that, about their newspapers or social work that was undertaken, medical mission, providing jobs for the converts and all those things. We are not touching upon all these issues. One more issue I would like to touch upon here is caste. This is an interesting area which I found very much to be discussed here, and also I was fascinated by looking at the way in which they approached to caste. When they came here and approached the people, and they started speaking about the religion, Christianity, both in school or in other places like marketplaces or wherever there were fairs or jatre, we call it fairs and all. They went there and preached there, and in most of their writings, they were writing, stating that higher caste people will accept Christianity. No, that was their target. Target was upper caste. Especially they were talking about Brahmins. If a Brahmin comes to a religion, to Christianity, then others would follow automatically, because they thought that Brahmins are the leaders in the community, and therefore if Brahmins come to Christianity, then others would follow automatically. That's one thing. Secondly, they did not want the lower caste to come. They did not see the lower caste to be converted immediately, because they find that if the lower caste come here, then other people may not join it. Also, Christianity could be seen as a religion of the low caste people. That fear also, we could see their annual reports. Till 1842, they came in 1834, till 1843, or I'm sorry, 1842, we do not find any upper caste person converted to Basel Mission congregation, and there were a lot of disappointments, saying that none from the upper caste came to us, whatever we got from lower caste. In 1843, there was full of joy in their writings. There were 3 Brahmins, according to them, joined Christianity. Among the 3, one was Saraswat Brahmin, other 2 were Gauda Saraswats. The first one, the Saraswat Brahmin, was Anandrao Kaundinya. And when Anandrao Kaundinya came, Anandrao Kaundinya was a well-to-do family, because his uncle was a Shirestedar in the Mangalore court, and very influential family here. His father was not there, was a married man, Anandrao Kaundinya, but he wanted to learn English and joined this Basel Mission school, and there he was attracted to Christianity and wanted to join Christianity, and that was taken as great triumph by the Basel missionaries, saying that what was not possible for other missionaries, especially he was referring to Saint Francis Xavier in Goa, because they converted many upper caste into Catholic faith. What was not possible for him, we could gain here in Mangalore. That is how, because they found that Saraswat, among the Brahmins, Saraswats always claimed that they are of superior race and pure, Aryan race. Of course, we could see about these things. This family, Anandarao Kaundinya, once he became Christian, we know his family later, after the death of Anandarao Kaundinya, his children migrated to Germany, and when they migrated to Germany, in Germany there were, by that time, Second World War had taken place, and before that, Hitler was ruling in Germany. Hitler's persecution Hitler's persecution started in Germany. That time, the Basel Mission Home Committee gave a certificate to Anandarao Kaundinya's children, and stating that Anandarao Kaundinya is from a Saraswat family. It is a pure Aryan family, like Germans who are pure, and they should not be touched upon because they are equivalent to Germans. That's how the certificate given to that family, which the copy of that could be seen in the Basel archives. Perhaps they were overjoyed, saying that we got an Aryan into our fold, Christianity, and this German missionaries were very happy. So you can see the racial superiority here of them, and also found that at one level Christianity is speaking of universal brotherhood. All are equal before God. We are the children of God. Universal brotherhood. God is our Father. And suddenly you can see here in their practical, routine, practical work, they were overjoyed to have this man into their fold. Of course, there were a lot of opposition to Anandarao Kaundinya's conversion to Christianity. We see they were attacked, and there were court cases. Anandarao Kaundinya's wife, Lakshmi, she did not convert. She said, I will not follow him. And they filed a case in the court where Anandarao Kaundinya's wife, Lakshmi, stated that, see, in our religion, if someone is converted to Christianity or someone, goes to other religion, then he not only loses caste, but for the community people, he is dead. Okay, he is dead for the community, and in that context, I will become a widow. Okay. She, quoted that statement in the court. I will become a widow, and therefore, looking at my age, she was very young. Okay, looking at maybe 13, 14 years old, I will become a widow, and she pleaded in the court, stating that, looking at my condition, I would like to have my husband back to my religion so that he may live for me, my sake, and I will also live along with him. These were certain, things where we could see in the writings of Gauri Vishwanathan about this type of things, which she had taken up there in those issues, which I'm not going to discuss in detail here. But then, how this, and Anandarao Kaundinya was sent to Germany. None of the local converts were sent to Germany there to train him as a missionary. After his conversion, he was sent to Germany to train him as a missionary. And he became missionary and came here. He was the only local missionary because, of course, they thought that others would follow. No one followed. Other two, along with Anandarao Kaundinya, other two became Christians. They were, I said, from Gauda Saraswat. They were made local pastors, trained here in Mangalore, and of course, they continued as local pastors. But Anandarao Kaundinya, after training from Germany, returned to India as a missionary. And then, when Anandarao Kaundinya's wife Lakshmi, she did not become Christian, she died. After that, they were looking for a bride for Anandarao Kaundinya. They felt that even though Anandarao Kaundinya is a local man, local person, there is no equivalent for him in this part of the world, that is in Mangalore and surrounding areas. They were, looking for a bride from Germany. And a German lady was brought here and married, which means they see this racial superiority. All these things could be seen in the missionary writing. Of course, missionaries also, even though they converted the locals, they felt that locals are, even though they became Christians, even though they preached universal brotherhood of man and fatherhood of God, none of the missionaries married or, had, of course, Protestant missionaries marry. So none of the missionaries married the locals, local Christians. Whenever they would like to marry, they married their, girls from Germany. Of course, if you had some intimate relations, one of the missionary, Greiner, who was the first among the three, first three missionaries were Hebig, Lehner and Greiner, who came here. Greiner, he lost his wife in 1854, and then he was transferred to Udupi along with his son. And in Udupi, mission compound, he started that mission there in Udupi in 1854. There, after converting a lady, they found that he was intimate with one of the local ladies who was converted to Christianity, which was opposed by other missionaries, which was opposed when it was brought to the notice of home committee or the Basel mission authorities. Immediately they removed him from Udupi and they immediately transferred him from here to USA. It looks, we do not hear about him later, which clearly shows that they were not ready to accept locals equivalent to them. So this one way they are looking at the higher caste here to getting into Christianity, converting to Christianity, and at the same time they also tried to maintain the racial superiority. This racial superiority was experienced even by Anandrao Kaundinya. Even by Anandrao Kaundinya, even though they said Anandrao Kaundinya was from a family of pure Aryan race, but the Germans always felt that they are superior to Anandrao Kaundinya. That we could see in his biographies or even his wife's biography, where she refers to these things, because they did not give him chance, first preference to, whenever it comes, when somebody is not, whenever it comes to preaching or celebrating the Mass, when when a European missionary was not available, then only he was allowed. Okay. These things could be seen in Basel mission writings. Of course, they could not achieve anything other than Anandrao Kaundinya. Here and there we find a few Brahmins who came here, very limited number, maybe count in fingers. Only few of them came, but the majority of their converts were from Villava community. Villavas were majority of them, and they were the one who were converted to Christianity. They were not happy. Missionaries were not happy. Most of these people are, converted during the famine or during other difficulties and all. Or, of course, Basel missionaries always looking for individual conversions, not went for mass conversions. And these people, Basel missionaries were not happy. If you could see the reports of these Basel missionaries, they always mention that these people are spiritually not coming equal to us. And sometimes they even refer to them as bread and butter Christians. Okay? That type of words we find in the missionary writings, bread and butter Christians, because they did not come for spiritual needs, they came for their worldly needs. Such people, in spite of repeated teaching, they may not come to our level. Okay, so you require a continuous teaching, continuous preaching to them, and they found that preaching the outsiders is easier than preaching the insiders, those who become Christians. It is very difficult to preach them, and therefore, if you look at the presbytery records, presbytery means church records. Always they used to have church meetings. and meetings are, meeting minutes are there. That's called presbyteral records. If you look at they are handwritten. I have gone through those presbyteral records of a Shanti church in Balmata and also a church in Mulki church. When I looked at these presbyteral records, you are amazed to see that these records give us the details of individuals, the punishments which were given to the people. Someone who was drunk, and sometimes ladies were drunk, and they were not given the they were not allowed to participate in the church proceedings. They were given a crossbench, adabench, and they were not also allowed to share the bread, which was, you have a commemoration of Last Supper of Jesus in the Mass, and when it was held, they shared the bread with others, and these people were denied, saying that you have committed sin. And we see that sometimes they were asked to stay outside the church. They were supposed to come to the church, but stay outside, or sometimes they were given a separate benches which are kept in the church where they were supposed to sit. Sometimes they were excommunicated. I was very much surprised to see between 1881 or 1890s, during this period, their excommunication or removing from the community the number of excommunication was more than their conversion. If I recorded certain things, for example, see, 1891 to 1895 at Udupi alone, there were around 245 excommunications against 230 conversions. That means they were removed from the church for not obeying the church regulations. That's amazing. That was something surprising thing which I see here in their, in such cases. When it comes to Mulki Church, that's a very, very peculiar case we could come across. In the Mulki Church, some new missionaries came there in 1850s, 1850-56, where we find some new missionaries came, and in the Mulki, of course, Mulki is a land. If you look at the geography of Mulki, it's an agricultural land. Church also, that Basel Mission Church also possesses a good amount of land there, which they have given as given in tenancy to its own converts. A good number of converts were there. Among the converts, it looks like a good amount of converts came from a community, that is a beloved community, and including their leaders, including their community leaders. And these community leaders also became the leaders among the Christians, where they were given the status of catechist. Catechist is a term normally used, one who accompanies and with the missionary, and also he preaches there in other places. He is a leader of the community in the church. Also, he was given a place there. Now, these catechists had a very, influential role there, especially in Mulki, because the Mulki Christians accepted or obeyed more of these catechists than of missionaries. Therefore, these missionaries thought that this catechist to be transferred from Mulki to Udupi. There was a transfer of catechist, but the catechist refused to go, saying that no, we are not going, we will stay here. People also, Christians also supported this catechist. So what was the result? In 1857, we see that entire church was excommunicated. Entire Christian congregation of the Mulki was excommunicated. And they closed the doors of the church. These missionaries closed the door of the church, and they also gave a warning letter to those tenants, saying that, most of the Christian tenants, saying that you vacate our land within 6 months. And what to do? Christians again, they gathered and wrote a letter in Tudu, that was written in Kannada script. It was written to the Home Committee in Basel. The letter is still there in Home Committee in Basel. The letter is in Tudu, where one sentence they have written is very appealing. They said, Of course, other things are there. One sentence is, we lost our caste twice. The Christians of Mulki in 1857 writing, stating that we lost our caste twice. That means once we became Christians, we lost our caste. Now again we are excommunicated Christianity, again we lost our caste. At least we had some, caste here within this community, but then again we are excommunicated. So this was the trend which we see here. Now of course time is nearing. I'll come to other parts of this. This type of, this is one example. I have many examples to give in this line. There is another aspect which I would like to highlight, and then I will close. Then we can have question answers. If you have any doubts, we can discuss those issues. One more issue I forgot, and after that I come to the last issue. One more issue was Catholics. Catholics and Protestants had the rivalry in Europe. You know that when Protestantism came, it split from Catholic faith, and it came Lutherans, and these people who are, they were Lutherans. And that rivalry of Europe also continued in Tulunadu. The Protestant Catholic rivalry. When Basel missionaries started their schools here in 1840s and all, there were a good number of Catholics joined Basel missionary schools. There were no schools of Catholics, no prominent school of, there were a few schools, but not prominent school. One school was in Milagres, and other schools were there, but not very popular one. But Basel missionary schools were very much in demand. So some Catholics joined these Basel mission schools. Among them, from Catholic faith, they joined this Protestant faith, Basel mission faith. Of course, Catholics, this is very interesting. The Basel missionaries always referred Catholics as caste Christians. They always blamed Catholics as, Catholics of this region are claiming that they are from upper caste. They have migrated from Goa. They speak Konkani, and Konkani language is equated to, Aryan language, and therefore they always claim themselves as upper caste. Therefore, Basel missionaries always referred Catholics as caste Christians, and also image worshippers. Image worshippers, all these, details we are not going in touch. I'm not going discussing these things here. This is how they have written. But when Catholics shown some leniency towards Protestantism, they accepted him immediately, because you need not preach them more. Already they know about Christianity, so they were immediately taken into Christianity, and some of them were immediately trained as pastors. One such person was, who became Christian in 1850s was Sebastian Furtado. 1850s, and after that a number of Catholics who became Protestants. Sebastian Furtado, you have that family still. Furtados are there. This Sebastian Furtado's conversion was taken up by Catholics as very seriously. There were protests, like Anandrao Kaundinya's conversion. Sebastian Furtado's conversion was also to Protestant faith, was taken as as a great protest in Mangalore by the Catholics, and Catholics now decided, stating that we also require a competing person here to to challenge the Protestant missionaries here. Therefore, the Catholics gathered here and wrote a letter to Pope, stating that we also require good schools, so that our children will go only to Catholic schools, not to Protestant schools. And they made continuous requests. We could see that continuous letters were written from here, Mangalore to Pope in Rome, and finally Pope agreed. And these people have, some of them have written stating that we require German Catholics, and especially they called Jesuits to come here, because Jesuits were known for education. Jesuits have started their schools in Bombay, St. Xavier's School. So same Jesuits could be brought here to train Mangalorean Catholics in their schools. And finally we see that Jesuits came from Italy in 1878 to start a school here, and that way we find St. Aloysius College was established. It's a, after establishing, we find that rivalry continued between Jesuits and Protestant missionaries. Jesuits started not only the school and it became a college. Of course, they started like it's a college, and then they also started a rival press. You see that the Basel Mission Press was there, and a rival press, we have Kodagu Press, they started. So with this rival press, always they blamed each other, and also they printed pamphlets stating that they are interfering in our affairs, and sometimes Protestants said that they are or whoever wanted to convert to Protestantism, Catholics, Jesuits are converting them to Catholic faith. These things, this blame game was continued. Last part, that is, in the 20th century, we see that there are another type of writings were coming up in Christian world, or in Tulu world, and the Christian writings. One of, we know that a good number of missionaries have published books or journals or periodicals to train the Christians to speak about Christianity and all. But we find in 1920s, exactly in 1925, from another side, from lay people, that is, those who were converted to Christianity, we find a magazine coming up, a journal coming up. Its name was Satyavrata. It was not printed by missionaries, it was printed by a lay person, a Christian, and Yassi Ayman was the editor of that, and he prints it from Saraswati printing press in cantonment area in Mangalore. And this is a press which starts speaking about self-reliance and independence of the church, where the Christians of the local area, those who were converted to Christianity, they now say that enough of missionaries. We wanted, of course, we know that 1920s, Gandhi's influence here, Gandhi's role, and national movement which was going on during this period, it was a vigorous state. Same concepts were taken by this journal, and they were talking about self-reliance, self-independence of the church, and self-respect. These are the words which are stated, and started saying that we require independence of the church to be given to Indians. They also blamed missionaries, saying that you have started schools, but our schools, missionary schools, are only primary schools. These schools meant only for reading and writing the Bible. I'm sorry, reading the Bible and interpreting Bible. We were not given higher education. Look at others. They also compared themselves. Protestants compared themselves with the, Catholics. See, look at Catholics. Jesuits came here and they started St. Aloysius College, and even others started colleges. Now they are trained in the colleges and they have occupied upper posts. Whereas we converted Christians in the Basel mission, we are still, working under the Basel missionaries in the factories, or in the spinning, weaving mills, or certain, things which are started by, or tile factories which were started by the Basel missionaries. We have not been raised to the higher posts. This was a complaint which we could see, which was going on in 1920s to 1930s, which was going on. Of course, that journal did not continue for a longer time. There were cases filed against it by the missionaries, and later they had to stop that publication. Sometimes people also did not support, because you are going against the clergy. Going against the clergy, you must have that much of daring, and it's not that easy in a setup where your entire congregation is made by this clergy, and he was looked upon as is one of the leader in the community. Even though he's outsider, they themselves claim that it is my community, I created you, I brought you Christianity, and speaking against him is not that easy. But still such things happened, maybe because of freedom movement which was going on here, and the nationals nationalism also had an effect here. They started speaking in terms of Indian Christians. So they also said we are Indian Christians. This term did not appear earlier. Now for the first time in 1920s, 30s, people started talking about, they coined themselves as we are Indian Christians. So Indian Christians should get the church in their hands. So this is how I wanted to speak. There are other issues, I think due to lack of time, it's already 7:05. Lack of time, I stop here and I invite questions. Sorry for taking more time. Thank you.
Congratulations to you, sir, and it shows that you are command on the subject. So now the topic is open to the debate. If anybody has got the questions, they can raise the questions. Okay, sir, I have one small question. As anywhere, the conversion is always a controversial issues. But when it comes to Basel Christian conversion, never rise to the level of the controversy. Is it due to their education, the spreading of education, the charity, and the health programs done by the Basel and Moglink, the Lady Mog?
I do not agree with you that there was no controversy. There was controversy. Okay? There was controversy. Of course, we have a good number of writings to show that Basel missionaries were they were aiming at Brahmins. But when the Brahmins did not come to Christianity, they now started blaming Brahmins, saying that Brahmins are the main obstacles for us to bring people to Christianity and all. They also saw that Brahmins, Bunds were opposing, and there were Brahmins who were, imitating missionaries. Of course, they did not have any other. Today, you have a social media and other things. That was not there in the earlier period. But then, whenever the missionaries went and started preaching, the Brahmins also other side started imitating those things. There were literature. Even some of the locals brought literature from Europe, because by that time you must have seen in Europe there were difference among the Christians, and also against Christianity certain literature produced in Europe. There were literature on atheism. This literature was brought here. This literature was brought here, and they started speaking in this type of literature, saying that you are speaking about Jesus, one God, one, all these things for all. Now see there is a division among yourself. Catholics and Protestants cannot go together. You are fighting among yourselves, and you are in your own European country. There is opposition to Christianity. There are people who are going away from Christianity. You are speaking about a true God. All these things, opposition came there. Controversy was there. Of course, Basel missionaries' education was appreciated by many. In spite of this opposition to missionaries, their education was appreciated. Many joined their schools, and Basel missionaries thought that by many coming to their schools, there were rush in their schools. They thought that many will come to Christian faith, but among those who came to the school, they got educated and went to higher posts and occupied government posts. Missionaries were also making this statement, saying that a good number of them who were educated in our schools, they did not turn up to Christianity. They just turned their back and went away from there. So but their number of conversions were very much less when compared to their influence in this region. Their greater influence. Influence of Christianity was much greater here in this region through Basel missionaries, but they did not succeed much. When their number was very limited. Not many were converted in that line.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, one question from my side. Yeah. So, very excellent this lecture. You enlighten us in many ways. Sir, my first question that in the beginning you told that many Christians came from Goa and settled down in local agriculturist estates, and they got appointed by the local agriculturist, and they started to work in that in their lands, isn't it? So my question, while coming from the Goa, whether they brought any new technology or they are expertised in the different kind of agriculture, was it influenced on the local agriculture? That's the first question. And the second question, that is, you said that is Anand Rao's cases. So he was sent to that is Germany and to take a training in that Germany. So by that time, whether Germans had treated him as equivalent to the Germans, because when that racial question was so higher. And the third point, that's you said that is the differences between that is Catholic and that is the Catholic Christians as well as the
Protestants.
Protestant Christians. So that is one of the motto of the that's Catholics and Protestant was the conversion, isn't it? So was any impact could be seen because of these rivalries between them when they converting the other people to the Christianity? These 3 points I would like to answer.
The first one is the migration of the Catholics to this region, and Keladi rulers accepted them. What you said is right. Right, it is because Keladi rulers knew land was abundantly available. ಬೇಕಾದಷ್ಟು ಭೂಮಿ ಇತ್ತು ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಆ ಭೂಮಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಭೂಮಿಯನ್ನು ಉಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬರುವಂತಹ ಜನರಲ್ಲಿ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ನ್ಯೂ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ಸ್. ಒಂದು ಯಾವ್ದಂದ್ರೆ ಏತ ನೀರಾವರಿ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ ನೋಡಿ, that was especially might have brought by these Catholics when they came from Goa to this region, and they are, you know, this that is a technique which today we don't have that, but due to the electrical pump sets. But earlier, this technique was used in irrigation facilities. You just jump into that and remove the water from there, and then irrigate your land from the well. This is one of the techniques they brought. I'm not very sure about that. That's how I'm told when they came here. They were good in agricultural techniques, and also I'm not very sure. Sometimes I'm not able to prove that. Later on, when they became tenants, most of these Christian tenants were attached to these matas. Look at the Udupi Mutt. Udupi Mutt, almost 80% of the tenants were Christians, Catholics. Till you have this Land Reform Act. Almost 80% of them were Catholic tenants in that area surrounding Udupi Mutt, and very close to that Mutt, and they were paying those tenancy regularly and systematically. Perhaps a good relation they had with the Mutt, and Mutt also reciprocated to that, because whenever the church feasts were taking place, the Mutt was sending its elephant. Mattada aane bartittu ಚರ್ಚ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗುವಂತಹ ಸೆರೆಮನಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಚರ್ಚಿನ ದೇವರನ್ನು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಂಡೋಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ. Perhaps that was which was happening when I was small. I used to see these things. Today things have changed a lot. Lot of things have been they are not there today, maybe due to its own reasons. But this is where we could see. You are right in the first question. Anand Rao's case. Anand Rao, they claim that Anand Rao is from superior Aryan race because he was a Saraswat Brahmin. And but then when Anand Rao was about to be sent to Germany to train him as a missionary there was opposition. Germans said no, he is an Indian. We cannot bring an Indian here to train here because racially we are superior. But somehow Anand Rao's one who converted Anand Rao, that is Herman Mogling. Herman Mogling was one who converted Anand Rao. He insisted that he should be trained, and if he is trained, there was a reason for his training also. It is not only that he should be trained, but after his training, when he comes back, you are bringing a Brahmin back to your own country, and you are allowing a Brahmin to preach again on Christianity. This is the technique the missionaries used not only here, even in other places. For example, in Goa also you could see the same thing, which you see there when the Goan conversion had taken place. Number of places they converted some upper caste Brahmins, and they trained these Brahmins in the seminary in Goa, and again they were made the priests and were sent back to the same village as priests. Earlier these Brahmins were priests in the temple, and in the same place the same Brahmins became the priest of Catholic Church in Goa. Maybe the same trend one could see here, even in Mangalore. They wanted, this man Anandrao Kaundinya as a preacher of Christianity, a Brahmin by caste, but at the same time a Brahmin is also equivalent to Aryan race. That's how they, but then this racial difference was there. The third one, third one. Unmute Madi.
Yeah. The differences between Catholics and Protestant, was it lead to that any impact on the conversion of the others?
Impact andre you have a rivalry. You have this rivalry. Avaru ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ St. Aloysius College ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು they started a group called Christian Truth Society. Both were claiming that ours is the true true faith, true religion. Catholics were claiming that ours is the true religion, and Protestants were claiming that theirs is the true religion. So you can see this type of fight among themselves which were going on. Maybe it was afterwards it was referred by others, saying that see, you yourself is fighting about true religion, and where is the point of others converting to your religion? And most of the blame was when Protestants were trying to bring some people into their fold. They blamed Catholics, Jesuits, saying that these Jesuits went and converted them to Catholic. And see, the most waiting people who are coming to Christianity, to Protestant faith, are taken by Catholics. That was the blame which always, and vice versa. This is always went on in among these two. Of course, today we don't find this much, but still the difference is still there. It is one cannot say that even today things are settled. No, I don't think so. You have, of course, this type of rivalry you don't find, but the differences are there.
Denis Fernandes ಅವರ ಗುಣಕ್ಕೆ ಪದೇ ಪದೇ ರೆಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಆದ ಕಾರಣ ನನಗೆ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಟೆಂಪ್ಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಎ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್.
ಹೇಳಿ.
In Goa, the rulers or the missionaries converted the Hindus to Christianity, and after that, there was racial discrimination even among the converts. The converted Hindus were called as Hindu Christians and Shudra Christians.
Yes.
So, whether in South Canada, after conversion of Hindus into Christianity, whether there was a further differentiation between them based on their original caste in Hinduism?
When it comes to Protestant conversion, we find that Protestants were not happy with Bilavas. ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಬ್ರೆಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಬಟರ್ ಕ್ರಿಶ್ಚಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಅದು ಒಂದಾದ್ರೆ in Mangalore, especially in Tulunadu, what we see in Mangalore and Udupi, this region, the most of the 90% of the people who were converted to Protestant Christians were Bilavas, from Bilava community. Others were very less. And adu one point. Others bandavarige sa, I know that one or two conversions from low caste had taken place. Those they were not accepted by others in the caste hierarchy. Caste hierarchy was maintained even after your conversion. That's one. Number two, when it comes to Catholics ಅಲ್ಲಿ in the later, that is in the 20th century, ಕೆಲವು Jesuits have gone to the interior of the places like Naravi and even your ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಸರಗೋಡು ಹತ್ತಿರ ಕೆಲವು ಹತ್ರ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾರಾವಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಡುಬಿದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾರಾವಿ ಒಳಗೆಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಂಜೇಶ್ವರ್ ಎಸ್ ಹೌದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾರಾವಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಹ ಮುಡುಬಿದ್ರೆ ಹತ್ರ there is one case. I'll tell you how it happened. It was in 1920s. ಆ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ there was a priest, Jesuit priest called Corti had gone there in that area. He tried to bring, initially in his records we see that initially he tried to persuade Jains to come to Christianity. Of course, Jains were landlords. They never accepted and they rejected this proposal and all. Later on, he tried to bring those who are working under Jains in the Jain estates, and most of them were Mangaluru and Kodagu, this area. Good number of them were there in that. They were brought to Christianity, Catholic faith, and he started building a community there. That is the only Tulu community among the Catholics you can see there. Even today in that area, Naravi and Arwa area, still there is some Tulu mass which is going on among Catholics. That's the only area where they were converted in the later areas, in the later days in the 20th century. These people, when they were converted to Christian Catholic faith, there were original Konkani speaking Catholics were there in Naravi. They never accepted them. They never accepted, saying that this priest is bringing the low caste into Catholic faith and we cannot accept them. Therefore, they refused to go to that church where these low castes were brought there to Naravi. These people refused to go because they claimed that even though we are Christians, we are Catholics, in the outside world we have a status in the outside society because the Hindus also respect us. We have a status in the society. Now, if these low castes are joining us, others will not accept us in that status. Therefore, they rejected this priest and this church. They remained in that. They cannot leave that place because they were agriculturists. So, on Sundays from Naravi, they were coming to Karkal Attur church for mass. They used to start on the previous day, and they used to reach there on the night. They used to walk and come to Attur church in Karkal. Naravi and Attur, you know the distance. Those who are from this area, they know the distance there. And after the mass from the church, they used to go back to Naravi. They never visited Naravi church, and they called this priest as Manusha Guru. He is not our priest. He is Manusha Guru. So this is how we find the stories of caste hierarchy, caste differentiation. That is not only the thing, Shambat sir. There is also among the Catholics who migrated from Goa, there is also a caste differentiation. You have 4 different caste hierarchies within Catholic faith. You can see. I'm not speaking about Protestants. Only within Catholic faith, I'm seeing in this area. You must be aware of that Rajat D'Souza, one who in sociology department, he had done a PhD work in this. He speaks about this 4 caste groups among the Catholics. They call themselves Bamun, Sudhir, then Sarodi, and one more he speaks. These are the caste hierarchies which one could highlight, but it's not shown to the outside world. But within the community, they do not have this. They did not have this, marital relationship between them. See, when a Bamun girl, Bamun is, they claim themselves as Brahmin. Okay? Bamun. So a Bamun girl, when they want to have a girl from a other community, a Bamun will not get married into a Sudhir or Sarodi. 4th one is Gaudi. So they will not. And that's how we could see. We have some certain churches. There are two churches coming up in same region. You must have seen in Kalyanpur. Okay, Kalyanpur area, very close by, you have 2 churches there. There is other reasons also. You can also see one church for upper caste and other. If you could see the church here very close to Kulur Church. There is, very close to our harbor, there is a church. And people who were there in that church area, most of them were from fishing community area, Catholics and all. Mostly the Mangalorean Catholics never had, today it's not there, but earlier they never had this marital, marriage relations, because they were looked upon as Gaudis or Sarodis. Even the same case you can see with the Manjeshwar, Kasargod area. The Mangalorean Catholics were not much accepting those, a few of them from that area. So caste hierarchy, one can see within that, but which is not visible, like you saw in Goa, or as well as you can see in Tamil Nadu area and even other areas. Tamil Nadu is very much there, very very prominent. Even so you can see the same church is divided into two parts. One is for upper caste, other one is for lower caste. They even built walls in the churches.
Thank you. One very specific detail I wanted. In the 19th century, whether upper caste people were converted to Christianity, Brahmins or Saraswat Brahmins.
That's one example I gave you about Anandrao Kaundinya, sir, here in Basel Missionary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very interesting presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Professor Denis,
Yeah.
good evening. This is Sandeep, and thank you for your presentation, and especially getting in the debate of Christianity and caste, which is normally hesitant to speak about. Thank you for that. I have one question or clarification in terms of Basel Mission, basically.
Yeah.
In one hand, you say that the Basel Mission preferred to only convert the high caste. In terms of conversion, the preference was towards high caste. But when they opened up schools, access to education was preferably given to
Everyone.
Irrespective of the caste hierarchy. How do you see, or how do you see this shift?
This is very interesting. It is not shift. Sometimes, you have this dichotomy. One could see in this type of things. See, in Mangalore, when Basel missionaries opened their schools, they opened it for all. Everyone should come to their school, irrespective of their caste hierarchy. They were asked to sit in the same classroom. Brahmins opposed. So, Brahmins of this region wrote a letter to the district commissioner, DC, stating that a good move has taken place by the Basel missionaries to open up the schools for our children, but then we Brahmins cannot sit with Shudras. Therefore, we require a separate place or separate building for the Brahmins. Let the missionaries teach the Brahmins separately. And that was a letter sent to Basel missionaries as well as to the commissioner here, which was rejected by the Basel missionaries. They rejected it. And they, of course, theoretically, they were always speaking in terms of, equality.
Okay.
Equality. These things were spoken very, throughout in their mission activities. They said there is no difference. But why they were looking for upper caste? Because one reason I told you, that once you get upper caste into your fold, then they believe that Brahmins are the leaders. The religion is with the Brahmins. Therefore, if the Brahmins come to your fold, then it is easy to bring others also. Therefore, you are looking at higher caste first, and also the status of the religion also. For example, when you have good Brahmins in your religion, your status also goes up. That's where since they were from Germany, this is common with almost all missionaries throughout India. It's not only from Basel missionaries, but throughout all missionaries, it was a common feature. One could see that when you do not get from upper caste, you come down in the ladder.
Yes.
You come down in the ladder. You look for others to bring it to your fold.
Thank you, Professor, and also thank you for also mentioning about the excommunication. I feel that that historical practice still have a lot of, I mean, the tool of the empire, the power that is vested in terms of excommunication is also very much part of the institutional church, probably inherited from those aspects, I feel that. Thank you for getting those important topics. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. I think there may be some more questions. Even I attempt to take the questions. Unfortunately, we are 7:30, respecting the others' time. So now it's time for our presidential remarks by our beloved principal, University College, Dr. Anasuya.
Good evening, one and all. Today's resource person, Dr. Denis Fernandes. Organizers of the webinar, Dr. Ganapati Gowda, and staff of PG Studies in History and Archaeology, University College, Mangalore. MANUSHA office bearers. Today we had lecture program on Christendom and its encounters, Basel Mission Experience in Tulunadu by Dr. Denis Fernandes, who elaborated on how Christianity started its origin in Tulunadu. Anandrao Kaudinya's case was narrated to us to tell us about racial superiority of Basel missionaries. The contribution of Basel mission to literature and establishment of schools and other educational institutions in Tulunadu were pointed out by the resource person. Print capitalism or printing technology is the area where Basel missionaries ventured into and succeeded also. Issues of conversion and excommunication were explained to us. The difference between Protestants and Catholics were also made clear by the resource person. We also had, at the end, we had a fruitful interaction with professors. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Denis, for sharing your knowledge about Christianity, its contribution to Tulunadu, and about Basel mission. I congratulate Dr. Ganapati Gowda and his whole team for successfully organizing 17 series of lecture every alternative Saturdays without break. It is really applaudable, sir. Once again, thanking everyone. I'll put an end to my presidential remarks. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, madam. With this, we come to an end of this 17th session. So it's my pleasure to thank today's resource person and all the dignitaries. Thank you, sir. Your presentation was an excellent and very informative. So we look forward you in the department in future days. So on the behalf of University College, Department of History and Archaeology, and my chairperson and from the principal, I extend my thank you, sir. I also thank our principal who always gave her support and give the time of more than 1 hour to this session. Thank you, ma'am. So I also thank Dr. Ganapati Gowda taking all the pains and finding the resource person and fixing them into this series of lecture. Thank you very much, sir. I thank all the MANUSHA team who are with us all these 17 series of sessions, and also all the dignitaries and resource persons, and most importantly the students of our department and different colleges. Thank you very much. So we look forward to you in the 18th series session. Thank you. Thanks once again.
Thank you very much.